Hey guys, Mike from Gettin Greasy Garage. Working on my son's S10 here. Did a fuel pump, fuel filter, pressure regulator, stuff like that. Still having a weird runnability issue. And digging deeper into this thing, I had to reach way, way back into my banks of knowledge. Kind of all the way back to the beginning of my career. And this is the older GM fuel injection system, virtually the same as what they started out with in the 80s. This is not a mass airflow system. It uses a MAP sensor, manifold absolute pressure. And this sensor tells, via using vacuum, tells the computer what the load of the engine is. Runnability symptoms on this were basically run okay. Sitting still at idle, you give it gas, it'd run all right. But as soon as you put it in gear and try to move it, it'll choke out and die, stall. And then, like, the warmer the engine got, it would get harder and harder to start. It would, like, sputter and kind of start and then die immediately. So, this truck's a 96. Everything's all original on it. So, it's not far-fetched to think that fuel pump was shot. And, of course, it's a 96 S10, so they don't have a test port for testing fuel pressure. And I didn't feel like buying a whole bunch of expensive fittings to be able to test it. So we went ahead and, like I said, we did the pump, the fuel pressure regulator, which is here, and we put a new fuel filter on it, which was pretty much plugged, by the way. So on the MAP sensor, on these GM ones, you got three wires. You got a ground, a power, and a reference wire. Ignition on, key on, engine off. The power wire should have right around 5 volts, and you should see a half a volt, 0.5 volts on the reference wire. The reference wire is what sends the signal back to the computer and tells the system what to do. Well, this one was all over the place. I'm not going to bother you with boring numbers on a test meter, but I just used a test meter, multimeter, and I put a couple guillotines in the wires. No, I'm not a fan of guillotines, but they make great connections for test ports. Put a couple wires on, a couple alligator leads, and my voltages are all over the place. Should be 5 volts going in, and engine off half a volt, and then at start it should be anywhere from 2 to 2.5 volts, and then go up from there with the amount of throttle. Well, this thing's all over the place, like I said, and so I'm pretty confident it's faulty. I mean, let's face it, 1996, this is 2023. So, and it also is erratic in that as the engine gets warmer, this thing runs worse. So, what do you do? First thing I do is think, do I got one of these laying around? I actually used to. And who knows where they are now. And rather than dig through a bunch of boxes, I'm fortunate. We got all kinds of stuff kicking around here. So we're going to go over here in the bushes, over that way, to our parts car that we're going to use. And I'll explain more in a minute. Alright guys, we're out here to the parts car. Got my son, he's learning. So what we have here is a 1986 Pontiac Fiero with a 2.8 V6. This car motor blew up. It's just been kind of a parts car, been sitting here a long time, as you can see with all the shit that's on the tarp there. So he'll go ahead and lift the tarp off. It's a Fiero 2M6. It's like the GT or whatever. I mean, these were, in their day, they were cool cars. And I guess to some people they still are. But anyway, he's going to take a screwdriver because it looks like somebody punched out the lock. And we'll get this trunk, i.e. bonnet, i.e. engine cover or rear hood, whatever you want to call it, open and see if it's still got a map sensor on it. So we'll get it open and bring you guys back. Alright guys, so anyway, got the hood up. And yeah, the old 2.8 was taken apart for parts a long time ago. Anyway, found a map sensor. So we'll go ahead and grab that. So the deal with the GM map sensors is that they're pretty well all the same. I mean, they're not totally universal. There's a couple of them that are different. Now, I did look up on AutoZone's website, and it is the same part number for this 1986 Fiero as it is for that 1996 S10. Now, my son's 1990 Chevy pickup with the 350 in it is probably the same one too. So anyway, we got a map sensor, and we'll go stick it on that little pickup and see what we get, and bring you guys back for that. But yeah, keep in mind that these GM map sensors were used from, I want to say, around 84, 85, maybe 86 for sure. Definitely 86, and all the way up through like 98. 4 cylinders, V6s, V8s, cars, trucks, stuff like that. So you can interchange them, as long as they're the 2-wire or 3-wire, like, you know, like this one is. This guy here, they're going to be pretty universal. At least for us, this will work for a test piece. You know, this car's been sitting here for 28 years, so I don't know how good this is, but good chance it's better than what we got. So we'll go find out. All right, guys, back in a minute. All right, guys, well, we're back over here. My son is going to pull the old one off, and then we'll run back through the test procedures once we install this found one. Pretty straightforward, 2 bolts and a connector, and I'm not going to bore you with watching that, so we'll bring you back when we test everything.
Alright guys, Dad's going to run the diagnostics.
Okay, so I had my son turn the key on. So now we'll power up our little test meter here, switch to DC, and check our power again. And I gotta hold the ground wire. A lot of this is just boring, but some of you guys working on these older vehicles with the pre-mass airflow system, this could help you. Okay, so we got 5 volts there. I'll switch our test lead to our other wire. Let's see what we got now. Okay, we got 0.5 volts. So go ahead and we'll disconnect everything and put the bolts back in the map sensor and run it and see what happens. So let me get this bolted back down, and then we'll run it and show you guys what happens. See you in a minute. Alright, well, he just fired it up, so we'll let it run for a minute and then see what happens. Oh, doing it already. Well, I guess that's not the problem. So, I don't know. This thing is just something that's a weird problem. I don't know, maybe it's just cold, who knows. He's going to try to back up and see, because it's always, mainly it does this dying crap when it's under load. Better. So let's close up the hood here and he can run it up and down the road. I don't know, we might have got it. Go ahead and close up your hood, run it and see what happens. That's all you can do. But the other one tested bad, so I mean either we got a lot of bad parts or something. Yeah, I know. Sometimes on these old rigs, I mean, it used to have all the books for testing this stuff, but you don't use the stuff for 25 years, can't keep it all. So he's going to go road test it and we'll see what happens. Okay guys, well it did do that die upon startup. He didn't road test it yet because I forgot about something. This is the first year of the OBD2 on GMs. So we're going to go ahead and plug the code reader in and see if it still has the 0171 and 1171 codes. They were P codes, which means runnability. And we'll go ahead and clear them because they're probably still stored in there. And then he can run it up and down the road and we'll see if the codes come back, but it seems to be running better. I think that when you initially started it, that the computer still saw the codes in there. It's an older system, and it took a second to run open loop and check all its systems, and it might have came back good. So, okay, so kind of hard to see here. Roll 107. Okay, so we're gonna go. There's our 1171. It's got 5 codes, but we did turn the key on testing. I'll just run this back so you guys can see them all. Okay, and then full absolute pressure, circuit low input. Okay, because we had the key on with the plug out. Oxygen sensor heater circuit, bank 1. That we know we got a bad O2 sensor. There's that 0171, 1171. It's a system lean code. And circuit low again. So we'll jump out. All these code reader tools read codes. We already read them, so we don't need to do that again. We're going to erase. Yes. Oops. I'm trying to read codes. Are you sure? Let's say yes. Let me get a bigger player. Okay, we'll play yes. First we'll delete OBD2 because this one makes you do each type of thing. OBD2, engine, and ABS are isolated as separate deals in this system. 0 code. Okay, so we'll go back. And as you can see, engine, don't have ABS, it's got airbag. Well, we don't need that. We don't have that code. Link error. Erase codes. Codes remaining 1. So we'll jump back out. Enter to continue. It's kind of hard to do this when you're looking through a camera. Okay. Oops, we'll go. Whoops. I pushed the wrong button. I know for a lot of you this video might be kind of boring, but for guys that are really trying to figure this stuff out, let's back out. Go back up to read codes. All the above. And it's probably going to say O2 sensor. Not that a 25-year-old sensor that was just laying under the hood of a car might not be bad. Intake air temperature sensor circuit high. Okay, well we have all the rubber boots, the hoses pulled off the intake, so that sensor is not even plugged in. That's the only code we have right now, and that's okay. It's not going to hurt anything. So he's going to go ahead and test drive this, come back, and we'll see what codes.